Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to another edition of the Fishing Teacher, and thanks a lot for watching today's video. Always much appreciated. And guys, today we're going to be talking about what makes good fishing line, as far as what are the qualities in fluorocarbon fishing line that makes it a good line or an average line or not a very good line, because there's actually 4 or 5 different characteristics of fishing line that you really need to consider before you decide what reel to put it on or what type of techniques you're going to use. So we're going to give you guys a good overview of that today. And also, guys, before we get started, quick reminder, we've got our winter lake map breakdowns up at fishingmoment.com. I'll put the lake map breakdown link in the description if you guys want to check this out. It's a really good resource if you guys want to get some good swim bait and jerkbait fishing areas on your favorite lake. Fish the Moment link, lake map breakdown link in the description of this video. So much appreciated. Okay guys, fishing line, what do you need to look for? What is important about it? Fishing line, it's more than meets the eye out there. And I've sort of seen the evolution of fishing line over the years. Back when I first started fishing, obviously the only thing you had was monofilament line, and there was some Dacron braided line. But back then, people didn't use the braided line or the Dacron line for bass fishing. It was more like for catfishing, setting limb lines and that type of stuff. People just didn't use it. Everybody used monofilament line. And most of the monofilament line you had was blue, so it was very visible in the water. And then sort of like in the late 1970s, you started having some more options. You had some clear lines, you had some green lines, and pretty much it stood this way. Monofilament was the mainstay. Nobody used anything but mono up until really sort of like the mid 1990s. And then in the mid 1990s, you started having braided line and fluorocarbon line come on the market. In fact, Seagar was one of the first fluorocarbon lines that people used out there. Give you guys a little bit of history. A guy named Jim Akins sort of like made Seagar famous with his little Akins jig for the finesse jig, because the fluorocarbon line was so invisible and small diameter. So here's what you need to look for in fluorocarbon line, especially today. You got a lot of different considerations. Number one is the diameter of the line. Now, different fluorocarbon lines have different diameters based upon, the model of the line out there. Some companies' diameters are a little bit bigger, some are a little bit smaller, but the diameter of the line is pretty critical in terms of not only visibility or lack of visibility, but also the rate of fall of your lure. If you have a certain braided line that has a smaller diameter, it's going to let you cast a little bit further, and it's also going to give your bait a little bit more action with smaller diameter, and the bait is going to sink a little bit faster. Second to that is abrasion resistance. Fluorocarbon lines have different levels of abrasion resistance because the abrasion resistance is usually correlated to the castability of the line. And before I get any more into that, guys, I have found personally that this is the best overall line. It's a Seagar InvizX. This is what I use all the time in my fishing. I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description if you guys want to try a spool of it. It's just freaking awesome. But what you have is when you're considering abrasion resistance, the castability is affected by that, because for the most part, if you have a line that is known to be high in abrasion resistance, most of the time that line is going to be a little bit stiffer than a more suppler line. And some of the lines that aren't quite as abrasion resistance tends to be a little bit more supple, more castable. So there's a time and place for both of these. A lot of times you want a line that has a little bit more abrasion resistance, like Seagar makes a line called the AbraseX, which is highly abrasion resistant. If you're fishing around like rock areas, barnacles, areas that are really gnarly for your line to get caught up on, sometimes you want to sacrifice a little bit of that suppleness for the abrasion resistance. Say, for example, if you're pitching and flipping around flooded bushes or flipping and pitching around, rough objects, sometimes that's the way to go. But the castability part of it, the little less, not to say it's not abrasion resistant, but not quite the level of abrasion resistance, you get a little bit more supple line and you can make longer casts. Now, this is especially important if you're fishing like in clear water, lighter line tests, something like that, where you need to get the distance on the cast, and sometimes the suppleness of the line as far as the sensitivity is key with that. So in my own personal experience, guys, if you're looking for 2 good lines, the Seagar InvizX is probably the best all-around line as far as Combination of suppleness, abrasion resistance, small diameter. I love it. If you're looking for a super abrasion resistant line, that Seaguar Abrazix is really good. And obviously there's different braided line companies out there, and every one of them sort of has a description on the line, the characteristics of that line. So obviously if you want one size fits all, this is my suggestion here. Some people are more technique specific, like if you guys do, if you don't do anything but fish tubes and Ned rigs up north, you probably want a small diameter supple line that isn't quite as abrasion resistant. And if you fish the Potomac River in Maryland and you're flipping boat docks that have barnacles on it, you want a highly abrasion resistant line. So sort of have to figure out what works best for you. So anyway, hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.